Good evening. The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, please read our mission statement and take roll call.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. Candace?
Here.
Deb?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Danielle?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
And I am also present, so we have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Thank
Sandy.
you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Support. Thank you. Mr. Walmsley?
Placed before you was an updated personnel report. So I will go through resignation. Christine Gibbons, an assistant cook. I would ask you to take a look at the district's response attached to her resignation letter. Dr. Mark Ladd, resigning from varsity football coach assistant. Ashley Maylou, fourth grade teacher. Lily Pearl, child care. And Dana Trombley, assistant cook. I'd also ask that you look at the district's reply to her resignation. New hires, we have Hagda Amar. She is a science teacher. She will start, the correction date on that will be May 1st for a high school science teacher. Kristen Borowski, Title I/31A paraprofessional. And then Teresa Ranger, who is a former teacher for the Spelling Bee advisor at Lee Elementary School. No internal candidates applied for that position. And that's all. There was no errors or corrections from the March 14, 2023 board meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on our agenda is our blue double raves. I'll just start down with Danielle. Is there any you wish to acknowledge?
I'm good.
Angela?
I'm good today.
I'm sorry, Sandy?
That's okay. So last time I did talk about how the choirs went to districts, and since then they have now gone to state. So I just wanted to give, and a lot of them got, first division ratings. The chorale got first division rating. The duet. Samantha McCarty and Eden Tabor, they got a first degree rating at states. And then also the Festival Select Ensemble. So that's awesome. So congratulations to them and to Ms. Floor. So last time I said they were going to go to state, so I thought that I should report and say they went and they did really well. So kudos to them.
Thank you. Candace?
No, I'm good this morning.
Margaret?
Yes, I have two. My first one is to Stephanie Cabral, who is the middle school secretary. I read at the middle school last week, and I was running late to get there, so I called to say I was running late, and she was very kind to me on the phone and told me to drive safe, which made me stop speeding for about 22 seconds. And but just her welcoming manner when I came into the office, she didn't know me, and the way she treated me was just outstanding, and she even walked me down to the classroom so I knew where I was going. So just a real positive face at the building, and I appreciate that. And my other rave is to Miss Brown, who is a 7th and 8th grade English teacher at the middle school. I read in her classroom, and the vibe in her classroom was very cool. I liked her interaction with the kids, but I came prepared to read books, and she had 2 books that she offered for me to read, and they were, the first one was Imperfect, Poems About Mistakes, and Imperfect 2, Poems About Perspective, and they're anthologies for middle school students. Just amazing, so amazing that when I went home that night, I ordered them and got them over the weekend, but just some really, really good words for the kids, and you can tell she lives by those with the students a little bit that I was in the room, so a shout out to her. Thank you. Kelly?
No, I don't have anything.
I just want to acknowledge our robotics team. They have qualified for states, and they will be competing in 2 weeks in, I believe it's Saginaw. So I wish them luck, the whole group. Okay, our presentation this evening, we have one presentation. Mr. Walmsley, I'll let you lead into it.
Sure. Tonight we have, this presentation was originally scheduled last time, but we had, due to the change in the board meeting date, the presenters were not available. So this is we've been talking about this concept internally of a Richmond Community Schools Hall of Honor, Hall of Fame showcase for many years. And when Preston came on board, I know this is one that we have really been trying to push and get up and going, and he's had his own thoughts and processes about it, to be able to showcase not only the academic, but the conversation about academics, which is why Sue Boyd, who's on the Richmond Education Foundation, will be co-presenting with Mr. Trent. So I invite you two both up to the podium.
Just a second, I'm going to pull up the site as well, so we can kind of get a feel for it. All right, so like Mr. Walmsley said, this is a project I did not, a couple of years ago, think I would be the one presenting it. This was something that I have been pretty passionate about, and some of the people I've worked with just in my academic field, or athletic fields, have also been pretty passionate about it. And then when I was approached by members of the REF about partnering with them on this, I was like, yes. If it means we can get this rolling, let's do it. And then we started brainstorming ideas. You know, how do we get these two groups to kind of be together on this and make this cohesive and good for both? And as we went through the site, we're like, you know, there's kind of a lot of things we can do with this, and we can make this pretty comprehensive for both. So what it would be is the two groups. So it would be the REF with the Academic Hall of Honor, and then the Athletic Department. And I'll explain kind of how that committee will look, working together for the Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame. The Academic Hall of Honor would be maintained and selected by the REF, and then the Athletic Hall of Fame would be maintained and selected by the Hall of Fame committee. And the idea with this was we run both programs together, we run it through the same board, which we'll talk about, the same site, and induct both groups together during homecoming week. So we kind of use that as the capstone for homecoming week with a little ceremony on that Sunday. Yeah, I'll get to the board part of it next. So on the athletic side, I asked each coach or each AD in the conference to send me what their schools do for a Hall of Fame. Looked at I believe 6 of them that were sent to me, and kind of made a Frankenstein's monster of it, of all the parts I really liked from each. So what I kind of landed on was each class being made up of 6 inductees across 4 categories. So the 4 categories would be an athlete, a coach, a team, and a contributor. Athlete, obviously somebody who competed here. A coach, somebody who'd served here for an extended period of time and had some success. A team that won a conference championship or advanced further in the state tournament, or made significant contributions to future programs. And then a contributor was the category I added that a lot of those other athletic departments didn't have. And this is that person you can think of if you've been around an athletic program long enough. That person that, if they weren't there, this program would not be at the heights that it's at. They're not a coach, they're not an athlete, they're that person behind the scenes that, really adds to the program and makes it successful. That was the only category that we put as being optional for each induction class, because if we run out of those people, we don't want to feel like we have to induct somebody for that position. So.
And for the Hall of Fame criteria, we decided that individuals needed to be from the Richmond Community Schools for 5 years. They have to be removed from it, pardon me. And either graduated students or retirees. We wanted people to have an impact on the Richmond Community Schools through the community, the state, the nation, or the world. And then they couldn't nominate themselves, and then the application needed to describe their character based on ethics and integrity. We decided that academic teams can be nominated if the above listed requirements are met. So in that case, we could have a team member nominate the team. We just didn't want people to nominate themselves.
So in terms of the committee on the athletic side, that would be choosing these candidates, and our nomination process would be similar. I've created an online, a Microsoft form that I can put on the athletic website. People fill it out to nominate the person they want, or the team, or the contributor, etc. And then in May, this Athletic Hall of Fame committee will come together. And the idea with this, going back to my days of teaching government, is creating some checks and balances so it doesn't become overly political or overly, I don't get political, but they don't think that one person is doing this just, to get all their friends in the Hall of Fame. So that was the big sticking point a lot of the other schools I talked to had. They were like, yeah, we did it, but also, I was like, all right, we can avoid some of that. So the committee will be made up of 7 members. It'll have the 4 standing committee positions, which would be the superintendent, the principal, the athletic director, and then the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Council, which is a group we're getting started this year. It was an organization I was a part of in college. Each team sends 2 kids from their program. We meet once a month. We discuss issues in the athletic department. We look at issues going on in the MHSAA or in the conference, kind of giving those kids a voice there with that. So the president of that committee, which would always be a high school senior, would also sit on it. The idea with that was it gave me 7, so it was a tiebreaker, but it also builds that kind of sense of community with that student right away. Like, yeah, even before I left school, like I was a part of this committee and I got to help pick that class. That was pretty cool. And we get them to become those involved alumni. The other 3 members would be chosen by the athletic director, and they would be approved by the superintendent and the principal. So one of those 2 would have to say, yes, this person can sit on this committee, because then it would be a 2-to-1 vote. Their membership would be reviewed yearly. So it would be a retired coach, an alumni athlete, and a community member. All 3 would have to be removed from either competing, coaching, and in good standing with the district. And so kind of adding that approval process with the superintendent and the principal adds a little bit of checks and balances to it.
Again, our side of the house is a little bit different, not as complicated. The members of the Hall of Fame committee will be the current members of the Richmond Education Foundation. So whoever is the membership at the time of application, basically. So the next group, or the first group, if this were to go, would be, the current members would be myself, Julie Kolinsinski, Sandy Fortuna, Julie Jagoda, Rich Michaels, Kathy Miller, Joe Schultz, Margaret Telto, and Brian Walmsley. And since you brought up the number 2, 4, 6, 8, there's 9 of us, so.
So back to the athletic part. Nominations would be submitted online via Microsoft Teams. The committee would review them in May. and select the induction class. They'd be announced in June, and then we'd honor them at the homecoming pep assembly, give them a spot in the parade, honor them at halftime, and then have that induction ceremony on the Sunday after homecoming. So, kind of how it would look. This program that I found, I found when I was at a wrestling tournament at Lowell High School 2 years ago, and I was blown away by it. The big draw for me at that point was we have those gold all-state plaques that we used to have up along the walls. Well, we've run out of room, which is a good thing to have because we've got so many all-state athletes. And everybody's like, when are you going to put these back up? And I go, I don't have room. I'm also missing a bunch. So I saw this at Lowell, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is what we need to do our all-state plaques, and it also gives us a spot to do our Hall of Fame. So this is their rendering of their graphics, and it's a touchscreen board, which is not drawn to scale in this. But this picture right here is where we've talked about locating it, pretty much right on top of where this display case is. This is right outside the gym. This is the wall that faces into the cafeteria. So you'd walk in from over here, come into a game, and this would be that first set of doors to go into the main gym. So the idea is to have a graphic here on this back wall with the screen over top of it. So if we look at the site, so the site is cloud-based. So if somebody isn't at the school, they can still access everything that would be displayed on that board. So this is what runs on Lowell's board at their school. The only difference is theirs doesn't have the academic portion of it. So when you go into the first one, it's a big flow chart or web of pages. Ours would have Athletic Hall of Fame, Academic Hall of Fame. And what are we updating there? We're not. As well as they've scanned all of their yearbooks into it, which I thought is super cool. Because how many times do I want to show a kid something when I was teaching something in my school yearbook? Like, yeah, we used to do that. And then I'd be able to pull it up on here. The other thing we've talked about scanning in as well are graduation composites and getting those on here so people can flip through that. So it's got a virtual yearbook. Oh, and it's going to take forever to load. But then you can go into, yep, there we go. So you'd be able to flip through all of these yearbooks going back all the way to there. So it would definitely be some work on the front end, and we've kind of brainstormed ideas on how to divvy up that work and take advantage of our summertime to do that. But what I really liked was in the athletic portion, you can search athletes, you can search teams, you can get to their website, some of their program history. So this is where we could have our Hall of Fame section as well as those all-state athletes, and be able to flip through those gold plaques virtually. But the other idea with this as well is you're able to generate profiles for alumni. So I'm going to put it on the spot. This was one of my college teammates. So I'm able to go through all of their alumni that are logged in here. And these aren't all Hall of Fame people. These are just people that went to Lowell and did something. But where's he at? Right there. Yep. So Jake and I went to college together. So you can pull up his profile. It's got a picture from when he was in high school, and then it has some of the accomplishments there as well. We would collect all this information through another Microsoft form. So they're able to fill that out, and then we've got a group of people that will kind of fact check this as well. There was another school I went where I was looking at the convention this weekend, where they have a link you can click, and if you see an error on a page, you can put that in, and it will send like a, hey, I think there's an error here, and this is what it is. So there's a whole lot we can do with this page and branching onto other pages as well. But again, the big draw for it is that Hall of Fame portion of being able to put that section down here as well. So again, it is cloud-based. Anybody could access it anywhere they've got the internet. So it's a great way to share this out with alumni, grandparents, relatives that don't live in town. Like I said, those all-state plaques can go on there, the alumni athlete profiles, team profile pages, so you can go, I don't know, wrestling 2010, and it'll pull up, boom, these are what these teams did. State championships, we'd have a spot for that so people could flip through by year for individual state champs and for team ones, and also putting those yearbooks and composites in there. So cost-wise, in your board packet, you've got the price quote from Touch Pros, and I brought their pen today from the convention. The board and the installation would be $15,300. The warranty and 10 years of the cloud hosting so that people can access it wherever. And then the wall graphics for the background, I got a rough estimate from Eric at Printall. I just said, hey, we've got this wall, it's this size, what would it cost? And that was what he gave me. So that would be the total cost of the project.
So just a couple things to add. The cost, that's the action item is based on the quote, so some of those dollars wouldn't have to be approved by the board, but would be part of the overall cost. We have, for a long time, talked about trying to honor and recognize and showcase the achievements of our alumni, which are worldwide, I mean, and where they go. But we haven't had a vehicle that we can do that. We walk in the gymnasium entrance, you definitely see all the athletic trophies and so forth. The showcase that was out in the front here, I know, Deb, when you were here, you were trying to look more of the academic focus. But we have many of our students that are in the academic side of the organization, choir tonight, the robotics teams and so forth, that also need to be recognized. And this allows us to give a platform to recognize everybody into the organization, as well as visitors who come to the district and want to see some of the things that that Richmond has accomplished. The draw for me on this system was the web-based, because we have so many people from all over the world, the United States, living, that it allows them to stay connected with Richmond Community Schools. I think this would be a great PR tool for our district in showcasing all the great things going on here. Questions?
Who's going to maintain this? First off, I'm just thinking of all that's going to go in to put it in. But after we do get it up and operating, who's going to maintain the site to make sure it stays current?
Yeah, and that would fall, I'm assuming, that would fall on me and Ray Lynn, my secretary. We've talked a lot about that. It's a lot of work on the front end, especially those yearbooks, those composites, a lot of those old results. But that's kind of where we looked at taking those summer hours when things are a little bit slower, knock on wood, right? And kind of chipping away at that. Obviously, we're probably not going to have everything, all the history of Richmond uploaded in that first year, but you know, hey, today let's knock out 2 or 3 yearbooks. Let's get this, let's get that, and kind of chip away at it as we go. But the maintaining of the site would fall on my department.
And organizationally capturing what students want to put in there could be something that we systemically do. Pick one of the, half day or so forth, and ask students, especially those that are graduating, to enter their profiles as they want. And this would fall under directory information, so if there's any information that parents do not want, it would fall under directory that we would exclude that from anything published publicly.
Yeah.
But how would that come into play if you're putting in after they're done? So how does that come in? I don't understand.
This would be the stuff that students, if take for instance, my daughter was here and I had signed that I do not want anything released on my daughter publicly, she would not have her profile put on.
But she's an adult.
After graduation,
Right.
Yes, she could. At that point, yes, she could. So if we're talking, let's just assume we pick a day for the graduating seniors at some point, and they still are under that adult age.
Okay,
At that point, we would not allow it to be up there until they made the decision.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
Okay. And I just want to say to the board, the Education Foundation, this is something that we have talked about for probably a little over a year, about looking at how do we honor the academic things that happen. I mean, that's what our organization is about, is academics and that. And so with working with Preston, after having a conversation with him, it was like this was the way we could combine both worlds, if you will, and honor everyone, as opposed to just athletic stuff. It's academic as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty exciting.
And the big draw for me was having it on the board digitally. Like, I didn't want to have a TV screen that just scrolled through a bunch of stuff, right? Like, it's there, it's interactive. I've seen 2 schools actually with it, one down in Ohio now, thinking of it. And, the site we pay for to have 2 tabs, athletics and academics. And then after that, we've got free reign as to how we want to branch that and have that flow from page to page. So there's a whole lot of versatility in this site.
And when you said about the TV, it's a classy way to put our stuff out, really. I mean, it's really neat.
Yeah, and am I correct in saying that the thing that the Historical Society did in front of the auditorium is full? Like, there's no room for us to put any more in there? Okay.
Yeah.
Class of, I believe 20 was the last class that fit in that showcase.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have.
It is. This will come out of our general fund?
Yes.
One comment I guess I had, or take it or lose it as a suggestion, I guess, was looking at the wall graphics background. After this week, seeing the art classes, posts, and talents,
Yeah. So
could it even be a consideration to have them do some type of mural and have
It
it
is.
So
initial?
I have kicked it to Ms. Guzik in the art department about having somebody, and even if it's a kid wants to draw the design, and then we can get that to the company to do the graphic for it, to digitize it.
And we did talk about that, about
Yeah.
how let's showcase some of our own
It'd be cool to
talent.
even,
Yep.
even having them painting it on the wall.
Uh-huh.
But I think it would be cool either way. I like the
Yeah.
idea of the graphic as well through the company.
Yeah, looking at, and the reviews I've gotten about the graphics in the gym, kind of extending that into this was my goal. So, yeah, I have kicked it to her about having a student come up with a design for it, because that was something we discussed in one of our meetings.
Yeah, stuff that's been posted on the Facebook page was phenomenal last week with the portraits, so that would be cool.
Yeah. I will not be doing that.
I don't think anybody on the foundation will be either.
Are there any other questions?
That's right.
I'm sorry. Are there any other questions?
Sorry.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
presenting this evening. Okay, our next item on our agenda is our superintendent district and legislative update.
Just a couple things legislatively. The prevailing wage law, is headed to the governor for signing. Actually, I think she actually signed it. House Bill 4007. One of the things that in the debate process or the approval process was districts that are currently in bond projects are grandfathered under the old language. So any upcoming projects wouldn't affect those that with the prevailing wage. The House did repeal the A to F ranking system. If you recall, Michigan is unique in that we have 2 accountability systems, one at the federal level and one at the state level. House Bill 4166 repeals Section 1280G of the revised school code, which basically gives an A to F rating for schools. And there was a great news story. If you, I don't know if you ever watch, it was on Channel 7 on Sunday morning. They do a news article about local schools, and I believe it was the Novi superintendent was on there talking about how you are graded against your peers, and when you do that, the way this current state system, even you could have 95% proficiency, but someone has to get the lower grade and someone has to get the higher grade. So it doesn't make sense. So I am very happy that it has been repealed. I'm hoping the Senate Education Committee will consider the same and will move on to the House or the governors for signature. Senate Bill 161 would allow for reciprocity of teacher certificates from other states, countries, as well as federally recognized Indian tribes. And Senate Bill 162 would also do the same for counselors. This is a good move that many teachers do get their degrees in other states. This would allow the state of Michigan to honor those degrees seamlessly. The legislature did head to spring break last week. They will not be back in session until the 3rd of April. At the county level, just remind anybody going to the County School Board Association that it's tomorrow at Dakota High School. I look forward to it. I believe Sheriff Wickersham is the speaker. At Lee Elementary School, they have a talent show that they're in the process of bringing back. More information. I know it's a lot of work for those that have put on talent shows in the past, but they're pretty phenomenal to see the talented students that we have. So I can't wait to hear more information and dates for that. Science Alive will be at Lee Elementary School on the April 16th and 17th. Again, more information will be sent home in Friday folders to parents. At the middle school, we were excited. Mr. Knight officially started this past Monday as the new Dean of Students. He has been working very hard to build a relationship with students and staff. I look forward to him as an added addition to our team. 5th grade is finishing STAR-based experience. I've heard nothing but positives for that, and if you have a chance, talk to a 5th grader. They love to talk to you about their experiences. All of the schools are getting ready for the testing, the M-STEP testing season, which begins after spring break and goes through the end of May. It's various weeks. It is not continuous for one grade level during that time, but there are periods throughout it. Middle school is probably the most challenging because all 5 of their grades, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all have to do with assessments. High school, they did the carousel of courses this past Wednesday for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. Last Thursday, we tried something new this year. 8th grade was allowed to come to the high school and do carousel of courses at the high school, where they got to actually see a scheduling presentation, building tour. They saw the electives that are offered at the high school, and we partnered them up with an upperclassman to learn more about the high school. So pretty exciting. A lot of interest and excitement in that. This Friday, if you recall, the board approved a Spanish trip a couple years ago. I think it's been almost 2 years now, maybe a year now. They leave for Spain, so good luck to Mrs. Smallwood and the Spanish students that are going. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is items of interest from the Board of Ed. I'll start at this end. Candace?
I'm good.
Margaret?
I have a few things. First, I put at everyone's place setting in front of everyone. Yeah, right. We have talked as a board about wanting to bring back our student board rep, and Sandy and Danielle and I are the committee, and we have put something together, and I sent it to Ms. Abel today, and we are looking for applications so we can start next school year, and we are going to conduct interviews the first week of May, so stay tuned. Yesterday, I attended a drag queen bingo show at Manassas, and the owner of the Shabby Pig, Chrissy, who brought the drag queen show to Manassas. It was a fundraiser. Part of the proceeds from the event, money was to go back to Richmond teachers. So they raised $1,500, and the money was dropped off to Mr. Walmsley today. So it's going to be split $500 for each building. So I just encourage anybody, if you haven't been in the Shabby Pig in town, please check her out. She's a great supporter of our school district. She supports the Education Foundation as well, so thank you to them for that. I attended the NHS inductions. Ms. Shegna had her first NHS induction, and it went very well. And I also attended the Lee School's Green Team event. I think it was last Monday, with Miss Wilson and Miss LeGroy. And there was a lot of people there, and they are going to be releasing their salmon on April 29th out of Metro Beach. But it was really cool to watch grandparents and kids just interact with all the things that they had that they could do, that the kids could do, and talking about the water and the fish and all of that. It was just really, really a cool event. So kudos to them. And I just want to thank, I read at the Lee and the middle school. I want to thank at the Lee, Miss Gibson, Miss Barrett, Miss Durst, and Miss Green. And at the middle school, Miss Brown, Miss Purcell, and Mr. Berg. Enjoyed reading in their classes. That's it.
Kelly? No, I don't have anything. I also have been reading in the classes. I've been in 6 rooms so far, so that was a lot of fun. My spring break for my school is this week, so I have a full schedule for this week to get into, I think, like 6 more in the course of this week, so that will be super fun. And I learned a ton about our students and our, like, just the student population in general, just by being in the classroom and interacting with them. Today was kindergarten, 2nd and 3rd grade, and there's lots of energy when it's pajama day, even though it's a Monday. So that was fun. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Sandy?
I don't have anything.
Angela?
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. My comments for this evening, I just have 2. First off, I am both honored and excited to inform our community that Kathy Campo, teacher from our middle school, has been named the Macomb County Middle School Outstanding Teacher of the Year. It is really exciting. I mean, all the times that I attended, this is like we have someone from Richmond there, so it's really cool. She will be recognized at the Teacher of the Year dinner that will be held down at the MISD on April 20th. So congratulations, Kathy. I also wish to acknowledge, and I first off want to apologize because I failed to do this much earlier. The board wishes to acknowledge the MSU incident and know that we continue our thinking and praying for the students, the parents, the staff, the Spartan community, and all that were impacted by this tragedy. And again, I apologize that I failed to acknowledge this sooner. Those are my 2 comments. Okay, next item on our agenda is the approval of our action items. So we're going to start off with the approval of the softball overnight field trip request. Mr. Wamsley.
At the last board meeting, Mr. Stewart, varsity softball coach, presented an overnight trip to Gaylord, Michigan. Tonight is the formal process for the board to authorize the trip. I've received no questions or concerns regarding his presentation.
I'm looking for a motion.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight extended student trip to Gaylord, Michigan, requested by Howard Stewart, varsity softball coach, as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next request is for the approval of summer 2023 bond projects.
At the last board meeting, Colleen Koffel, our project manager from Hawk Construction, reviewed the scope of this summer's bond project work, as well as the bids received, with a recommendation to award a contract to Asphalt Specialties, LLC. Again, I've had no questions or concerns regarding the presentation.
I'm looking for a motion.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and award a contract to Asphalt Specialists LLC for summer 2023 bond work projects for an amount not to exceed $1 million. Furthermore, the board authorizes the superintendent to enter into a contractual agreement within the scope of the project on behalf of the Board of Education. Consistent with general provisions of the board purchasing policy, the superintendent is authorized to approve change orders on the project that are within the bond budget for allowances and contingency funds. This project is authorized in the application for preliminary qualification of bonds approved by the Michigan Department of Treasury and approved by the voters of Richmond Community Schools, for which funding from the 2020 School Building and Site Bond Series 1 and 2022 School Building and Site Bond Series 2 is available.
Do I have support?
Support.
Give it to Kelly. Any discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Deb? I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, next item is the approval of the Early Learning Childhood Center outdoor classroom.
At the last board meeting, Ms. Staples and Mr. Gibson presented the concept of an outdoor classroom. The funds for this outdoor classroom will be used through the child care, will be from this child care stabilization grant.
Do I have a motion?
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the Early Childhood Center outdoor classroom for a total not to exceed $48,140.47 plus 15% for unknown site conditions, which funding from the FY 2023 general fund budget is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Other than it's really exciting, that presentation was great, and look forward to this coming to fruition.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Sandy?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Looking for the approval of the fiscal year 2023 budget amendment number 2.
At the last board meeting, Tammy Shad, Director of Business and Management Services, presented the Amendment 2 to the FY23 budget. Most of these amendments, as you recall, if you recall from the last presentation, are dealing with grants and updates that we've received in various fundings from grants.
Looking for a motion?
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the FY 2023 budget amendment number 2 as presented at the March 14, 2023 Board of Education meeting and outlined in the attached resolution.
Do I have support?
Support. Well, first off, it was March 13th.
Oh,
What'd you say?
She
I said 14th.
14,
It said March
it was a
14th.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
This resolution said the 3rd, so it was the 14th?
It was the 14th.
on Tuesday. We're trying to capture all of
Yeah.
them. So I will have Tammy change the resolution before we sign it.
Do I have support?
Support.
Yeah. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the approval of night lockdown devices.
As previously talked about a while ago, we are now moving on to the next phase of the light lockdown devices. We've installed shades and crisis response systems. This will be the third piece of increasing our district security. So tonight is the approval for the night lockdown devices.
Say that fast, Ruth. 5 times. Do I have, I'm looking for a motion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and a contract with Taylor Brothers Door Lock LLC for the night lock for an amount not to exceed $48,465.78, for which funding from the FY 2023 general fund budget is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation.
So I have
I'm sorry, Margaret, was that you? Yeah.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I would just like to point out this cost has installation. If we can do the install on our own, it would bring that cost down. And I want to make sure that we do install them correctly. So our intent is that this is the full cost, but it could be less than that coming in.
This will be a roll call vote. Candace?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Next item is the approval of RCS Hall of Honor/Fame Showcase.
Tonight you received a presentation from Mr. Trent and Mrs. Boyd regarding the Hall of Fame Honor Showcase for the purchase of the equipment to begin that process for installing it, ordering and installing.
I'm looking for a motion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve a contract with Touch Pros for a Hall of Honor / Fame showcase for an amount not to exceed $17,825, for which the funding from FY 2023 General Fund is authorized as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Real quick, I know in the presentation it kind of totaled out to about 21,000,
Yeah.
I thought.
There was a, part of that cost was the graphics, which would need to be board approved, so we're going to determine whether we get the graphic or whether we have an art student do it. And so when you look at the quote that was in from Touchstone, it's for the 17,825.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Candace?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Next item is the approval of equipment and supplies for the EMT program.
Beginning with the 23-24 school year, the EMT program will move from the Richmond Lennox EMS and be housed now here at the Richmond High School. To do that, we would need some of the equipment. The products that you have in your board packet would be purchased from the 61A CTE grant funds. If you recall, last year there were some dollars that were left unspent. We will be spending all of these funds. The major cost on here is it's basically as close to life mannequin as possible. It responds, interacts, and moves. That unit that is chosen, I did talk with Mr. White, and I do have that this is unique to that vendor. So there's not, I can't bid these out and get other units that have these features on. Again, we'll be using the CTE grants to fund all of these purchases.
Looking for a motion?
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the purchase of the EMT supplies and equipment for a total not to exceed $52,942.92, for which funding from the FY 2023 General Fund is authorized as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Sandy?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Our next item is the approval of the middle school and high school interactive classroom technology.
Several years ago, the elementary smart boards were taken out when we did the renovation and replaced with interactive display boards. As part of our ESSER 3 grant, we had always planned to utilize the funds to replace the middle school and high school technology. The current technology in most of the classrooms at the middle school and high school was put in as part of the 2014 bond project, so it's nearing the end of its life and usefulness. So tonight we'll start the process to replace the middle school and high school technology with interactive boards similar to what we have at the elementary school.
I'm looking for a motion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the contract with Digital Age Technologies for the purchase of classroom interactive technology for the middle school and high school for a total not to exceed $191,182, for which funding from the FY 2023 General Fund is authorized as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
I'm sorry.
Support, that was
Thank
me,
you.
sorry.
Any discussion?
I just want to point out that in the backup, these are REMSI bid items. The one thing that is different regarding the middle school and high school is there is a bracket that goes over the boards because many of the boards are replaced in the bond, where in the elementary school, the screen is mounted between boards. So we'll be changing the bracket so it can mount over the existing, basically the same spot where the interactive projectors are.
Any other discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Candace? Sandy?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Okay, next item on our agenda is public comments. Since the last board meeting, I had received 2 emails. One was regarding our Richmond Strong t-shirt and another complimenting us on our last 2 board meetings and sharing their concern about teaching anything outside of the normal curriculum. I replied to both of those emails. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in, state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments?
I'm Cheryl Jarrett, President of the Richmond Education Association. Good evening. Several months ago, Mr. Walmsley asked for suggestions to prevent our Richmond teachers from leaving. He said at that time teacher retention was a primary goal of him and this board. As the number of teachers resigning mid-year increased, we proposed a quarterly retention bonus. With this, all teachers, no matter where they stand on the salary or longevity scale, would receive a payment at the end of each quarter. And this payment would give all teachers an additional 2% increase by the end of the school year. After waiting 3 weeks, we finally met with Mr. Walmsley on February 14th. At that meeting, we were presented with a proposal that didn't include any part of what we had suggested. He simply offered the proposal that was later made public at a board meeting. After we had a chance to meet with our association leadership, we met with Mr. Walmsley again on March 8th. Our leadership turned down the offer of lesser health care and the chance to match salary offers. We offered a compromise in the language of the salary matrix. We asked for an increase that would benefit all members, not just those at the top. We also asked for language that would prevent new hires from being placed on the salary matrix above our current loyal teachers. We were told neither of these options were acceptable. I would like to clarify something for those who may not realize exactly how this salary matrix works. Increasing the number of levels at the top does in fact benefit those teachers who are currently at the top of the matrix. It would benefit me greatly. It sounds good at first, but it doesn't benefit all the teachers equitably. More importantly, though, the superintendent has the ability to hire a new teacher at whatever step on the matrix he desires. This extended salary matrix would allow new teachers, new to this district, to be hired at the top, earning $12,000 or more, quite a bit more, above those teachers who have been loyal to this district for 15, 20, or even 30 years. It is a slap in the face to the loyal teachers who have dedicated their career to this community and its students. It is my hope that moving forward, this board will acknowledge the value of all our teachers and make a genuine effort to retain our current teaching staff. If that doesn't happen, I imagine more of our great Richmond teachers will look for greener pastures. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
So I'll try to get through this. My name is Scott Good. My son, Connor, is the young man that was threatened with the knife. This is very hard. I want to thank you for how you treated us, but this is not a perfect process. Like, we researched, and I understand that this child has an IEP, but under the IDEA, the Individual with Disability Education Act, there's a clause that if there is a weapon involved, that it is a 45-day suspension along with the 10 days. This child is back in school. My son can barely get out of bed today to come to school. I do appreciate what Mr. Walmsley and Ms. Burrell has done, but I do not believe that the lawyer truly researched this. And me, I can find this act that is federally and state mandated that this child should have had another 45 days. So now this child is back in school, isolated, being moved from class to class separately. And I worked with children. I was in juvenile corrections for 5 years before I went to the government. And seeing children in isolation at that age is very difficult. So not only do I fear for my son, who's emotionally upset every day since this happened, but I also feel for this other young man that is now being separated. But it's a flawed process. I believe that we need to make sure that the people that are looking at this process and that the school board somehow is involved. I understand because of the IEP, this is not brought to you. It's not brought up to the school board completely because within those first 10 days, that child has to be brought back to school under this. But under the IDEA, like I stated, he technically could have had another 45 days to see if there was, they could have got him more help or make sure the district was ready, make sure my son was ready to come back to school. This is not fair for me and my family and my 12-year-old son to go through this, but I feel for that 12-year-old son. But my son, who doesn't have an IEP, the same thing, he would be expelling my son at this meeting. None of you can tell me that it would not happen, that my son would not be expelled because he doesn't have an IEP. That's not fair to him. Again, this child needs help, but what do we do with the rest of our children? We're all responsible for all these other kids in the school district. So I believe that somehow this process needs to involve the school board. I believe that we have to make sure that the lawyers in this district know the policy and these acts and laws, because I can look it up, my wife can look it up, anybody can look it up. And again, it's interpretation, but the way that we interpret it, we had another 45 days, which would have got us to the end of the school year to make sure that my son could have kept coming to school and this child maybe next year was ready to come back to school. So I just want to throw out there and let people think and make sure that what this school and this district, that what we're doing is proper. Again, thank you, Mr. Walmsley. Thank you to Ms. Morella, Mr. Knight, and all the teachers. They have to, which is a lot of stress on them what they have to do now. I understand. And I know it seems like possibly your hands are tied. I could be wrong, but again, I believe there was a way to keep this child out of school longer. Thank you.
Okay.
I had my reservations about sending my daughter to school today, and it ate at me all day. During my phone call this morning with Mr. Walmsley, Mrs. Morella, and Mr. Knight, I asked multiple times what the safety plan was to keep our children safe, and all I received was the typical answer that because of the law, we can't share that information, which is the worst answer you can possibly get when you're concerned about your child and other children's safety. How can any parent feel that their child is truly safe when the school refuses to tell them how they plan to keep them safe? I could care less about personal information about the student, nor did I ask for any. I wanted to know what this district was doing to keep my child and all other children and staff members safe. When my daughter heard that this student was returning, she gave me the most heart-wrenching look and asked me, "Are they crazy? Why would they allow him back? He brought a knife to school. That's illegal." I sat there and had no good answers for her, except that she was right. We teach our children that bringing weapons to school is against the law. Do you understand the type of message that this could be sending to our children? Some may look at this and now think it's okay to bring knives to school, and they won't get into trouble for it. Not only will students look at it like that, but they may look and think, what's the point of even speaking up when there's situations like this? Because all we see is little to no consequences for someone that does something like this. For whatever reason this child was allowed back is not what I want answers about. I want answers as to how you are keeping our children safe and why you think it's okay to keep parents in the dark about this student returning back to class.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, thank you. We will move on. We will be going into 2 closed sessions back to back, and we will not be doing any other business. So just so you know that when we come back out. So right now, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8C of the Michigan Open Meeting Act, I move that the Board of Education go to closed session pursuant purposes of negotiations.
Do I have support? Support. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.